Hello and welcome to another special edition of Mindshare TV, where we explore the people, the ideas, and innovation shaping the future of learning, leadership, and technology. I'm your host, Robert Mardlanchi, founder and chief digital publisher of Mindshare Learning. And today we're exploring an increasingly important question. How can artificial intelligence strengthen human creativity, entrepreneurial judgment, and innovation, and without replacing critical thinking and decision-making skills learners need most? I'm delighted to welcome and honored to welcome Dr. Andrew Maxwell, a leading Canadian authority on technology, entrepreneurship, innovation, adoption, research, impact, and entrepreneurial decision-making. He's a fellow Mississaugan, just down the street from us here at the Mindshare workspace. Andrew is the Bergeron Chair in Technology Entrepreneurship at York University Lassonde School of Engineering and director of the Bergeron Entrepreneurs in Science, Technology, better known as BEST. I love that acronym. He brings decades of experience spanning technology ventures, academic research, entrepreneurship, and innovation leadership. Through his work as the innovation doctor, as he's known, Andrew is challenging educators and organizations to move beyond simply generating ideas to better understand adoption, evidence, experimentation, and the human judgment required to turn promising ideas into meaningful impact. Dr. Maxwell, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
It's great to be here, Robert, and great to see how things have grown and sprung since our last time we did this, which was a few years ago now.
That's right. He happened to come upon the Mindshare workspace and wandered in and thought that was kind of cool, and we've become friends ever since then. And So talk to me about what is the innovation doctor talking about today. Andrew, you describe yourself as an innovation doctor, helping organizations make better innovation decisions. What are the biggest innovation challenges you are currently seeing? What are leaders most often getting wrong when they attempt to move promising ideas from exploration to adoption and impact?
Great question. I do want to position it slightly differently, because I'm not helping organizations, I'm helping individuals. If those individuals lead an organization, then hopefully that will help the organization. But I think that the issue that I'm looking at particularly is, how can we use AI to enhance critical thinking, enhance judgment, get people out of their, we've always done it this way, to look for new ways to achieve greater impact with what they have. And so that challenges everything. It challenges everything about how we teach, how we organize, what outcomes are, approaches. And in the education world, it fundamentally challenges everything that we have taken for granted in the classroom, in the education environment, because content no longer really matters. It's not irrelevant, but it's not the key concept. It's the things that you talked about at the beginning: critical thinking, creative problem solving, curiosity. And importantly, as an entrepreneurship professor, I'm going to say, learning what turns you on, or learning what motivates you, learning what will get you up in the morning so that you can add some value. And I don't care whether it's adding value in a big organization, working in a not-for-profit, starting your own venture, helping out in a food bank. I want to find what you can do better, and then I want you to see how AI tools can help you discover that, learn that, and then use them to actually do more with less.
Fascinating. Or being here at the Mindshare workspace, meeting our summer interns who are learning entrepreneurship and problem-solving skills. One of the students said, well, we weren't allowed to use AI in school while they were doing their engineering program. And I said, well, here you're able to use AI because that's how we work with it as a guide on the side.
So I'm going to go further than that.
Yeah.
If you don't use the AI tools, agents that I provide in my class, you will fail my class. They have to use it. And many of them are actually a bit scared. They don't know. They don't understand the difference between agentic AI and LLMs. The LLM is kind of search, and you find lowest common denominator. But that doesn't make sure that I get the students to understand the concepts I'm going to teach them. My agents are designed from a pedagogical perspective to build critical thinking, create curiosity, create understanding of the process, so that by the time you get to the end of the journey, you ask much better questions, and therefore you have much better judgment.
Fascinating. I'm going to deviate from the script a little bit because of your inspiration and what you're talking about here. I think this is probably one of the most important podcasts that an education leader or teacher could be watching today, and folks involved in that tech as well, because innovation is about doing something better. And AI is flipping the switch on innovation. We are currently, and I want to ask you this question, we're in an AI revolution, not unlike the Industrial Revolution. And we have our book that was just released, Being Human in the Age of AI. And I talk about AI being a guide on the side. The individual who wrote my foreword, and my proud York alumni, was the university president from York University, who played hockey with me on the faculty team for over 30 years, knows me better than most colleagues. And he reflected, being an Oxford graduate and now 97 years old, his son said, it is a little risky to use a 97-year-old to write the foreword of your book, but he came through and was stellar on it.
By the way, my mum is 97 and in her medical doctor, but her main hobby has been art. So she created all these art pieces.
Amazing.
And she says, there are a bunch of people waiting for me to die, then my paintings will go up in value.
Well, perhaps my book will go up in value.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
But we're in an AI revolution, and not everyone's buying into this transformation that we're going through. Scaling AI is not an easy process. Going through COVID, and I hate bringing that up, we saw 100% adoption of technology used by teachers because we were in a crisis. It wasn't elegant. Ed techs were criticized for the kinds of tools they provided, but it was crisis learning. Dr. Steve Jordan from U of T talked about the great snapback, which did happen post-COVID. And then here we are again throwing a huge curveball in a potential great benefit to our lives, AI, but not everyone's buying in. We're Mississauga residents. The city of Mississauga City Council decided to defer the building of one of the proposed data centers in Mississauga. It is election year, so obviously they don't want to upset people too much. They're going to do a study. But
I think, and we talked about that specific issue, and I don't know enough about it. But as I started to understand the underlying issues and concerns that people had, I think there's some very legitimate concerns.
100%.
And it's a big amount of the space that's available in Mississauga. We don't have lots of space. It will be a big strain on the capacity of the grid to produce the power. So I do think some of those things need a little bit more time. Building a data center is not innovative. It's a standard construction project. In 3 years' time, when you come visit it, it will look the same as you plan now. There's no risk, right? So when you're deploying technology, and this is actually a lesson for AI, you really need to think about the consequences, the stakeholders, and who's influenced. Because if you don't think about adoption, if you don't have that in your plan, you won't be successful. So I could give you a whole bunch of lessons from that particular example, but I don't really want to talk about that one now because I actually don't know enough about it. But right. I can tell you that there are some fundamental flaws in what they are planning, but they're all addressable. But if they thought about the flaws when they presented the presentation, they could have addressed them. And so I think that's one of the biggest lessons for me. Innovation is doing something new, something with risk, but it's getting to adoption. It's not innovative until someone adopts it. And therefore, to get adoption, you need to think about the field of behavioral economics, which is how people make decisions under risk. And it's multidisciplinary. It's multidimensional. It's like, what's the social impact? What's the cultural impact? What's the regulatory impact? If you don't think of all of those things, you will fail. So innovation at its heart is about creating a new value proposition, doing something better, something different, and managing adoption. And I think that's a slightly different perspective because you put people in a room and they say, always come up with new ideas. I've seen so many new ideas.
Right.
It's adopting new ideas. And that is a social science. It's not about a tech. It's about how you use a tech.
And getting beyond pockets of innovation. We're all innovating. We're on the leading edge here. and recognizing that not everyone embraces innovation. And it's about storytelling and use cases. We, through our C21 Canada Dell Technologies partnership, we have over 40 use cases now from across the country, spanning K-12 and post-secondary, and their industry is part of it, showcasing how AI is being effectively integrating, but also problem solving and understanding that things go wrong,
Yes.
right? So learning from failure is also very important. But, you know, some people don't want to learn from failure and are hesitant to embrace failure.
Well, so
right?
first of all, so I think there's a couple of really important
Yeah.
things. The first thing is that I would always argue, and I think your C21 project is a really great example, is the best way to innovate, the best way to get people on board, the best way to find out the issues is experiments. So any big grand plan, it just has so flawed, takes so long, it is challenging. So the approach you're taking, I think, is absolutely the right approach. But I think there's two important concepts. The first is most teachers, most educators, most professors in universities are not research educators. They don't research on the education process. So if you say, we want you to adopt a research approach to how you teach, they're completely unprepared for that. They have research in other areas, but they're not used to coming up with a new thing and measuring its impact and then finding ways to make it work. So what we need to do is we need to recognize the discipline that you're bringing, the collaboration, and then how we share those insights of success and, of course, of failure with the population. I also want to add one other thing, which is a design thinking principle that kind of we embed into our programs, which is prototyping. Prototyping does not mean that you have something that works almost.
Right.
Prototyping is an artifact that you can share with somebody else and then get the feedback on it. So if you have an idea for a new AI tool, then the first thing to do is to say, hey, if I had this tool, would you actually use it? Or what would stop you from using it? Or what do you currently do? And so as you go through the innovation process, you can bring these disciplines and experiment, iterate very fast. And then once you've done that, share the results. So I think you've done exactly the right thing. And I think we need to be willing to share. You will find some people that worry about failure. And I'm going to say maybe too much. Maybe that's our culture. So I think we have to do that. But the reality is, especially in universities, if you can go to somebody and say, hey, this university in this place, this course is doing this, therefore you'll find people will buy in. So it's not that they're anti-innovation, it's that they're anti the risk of failure or the time for learning. And many teachers and faculty will tell you they just don't have time to reinvent the courses. You mentioned COVID before.
Right.
What do you think I did for the first 8 months of COVID? I hired 5 of undergraduate students at York. All students have been in my class and said, we have to redesign everything for online delivery. And we launched online courses, 48 videos, a few versions of agents for 8 months. That's what we did. And then now, of course, we're still using them. And there is that snapback, whatever Steve called it.
Right.
But the reality is that it wasn't, oh, we just stay at home and not work so hard. I worked harder during that period than I think I've ever worked before because there was that urgency and I had to find a way to create a great education experience. And interestingly, we benchmarked student satisfaction after one of our big hackathon workshops on campus, and then one when we ran it virtually, because I thought it was going to be a disaster. And the overall satisfaction levels were the same. Some things they like better, some things they like worse, but there's no question that they got a lot of value about the online version. They missed a couple of things, but it's like you can't have everything. So
absolutely. Fascinating. Kudos to you for your innovative spirit in embracing entrepreneurial thinking in helping students prepare for the future. So preparing learners and leaders in an AI-enabled world. We're at the end of July here, and everyone's starting to think about back to school. What should educators and institutional leaders prioritize today to prepare learners to become innovators, entrepreneurs, and responsible change makers in an AI-enabled world. Not unlike these students here are experiencing. You talked about Shad. That's a great example.
I think there's a bunch of different things and different things for different people. So I'm going to make my comment about students first.
Right.
Because every decision I make, and by the way, I think every decision made, every university and every high school should be, how will this help the students? If it doesn't help the students, don't do it.
Right.
I mean, Nambi, that's a bit, aggressive, but I think it's.
I share that philosophy. Students should be at the center of everything.
So I think if you're a student, find out if you're not getting that stimulation, that curiosity, the ability to solve problems in your classes or in your schools, find online resources, because there's a whole bunch of them that are just available, and find them and experiment and use them as learning. Maybe you can't use them to hand in an assignment because you're not allowed to, whatever, but just use them as learning, and then compare what you do without AI, what you can do with AI. One caution is that people talk about general AI, LLMs, ChatGPT as AI, and it is a glorified Google. It's a glorified search, looking for patterns, bringing stuff together. It is great at doing that, but it doesn't lead you in an educational journey. To do that, you have to take a different approach, and we use agents to do that. So that's the first thing. I think for teachers, you have to decide, am I the innovator or am I the follower, the leader or the follower? And we know all of that from, Geoffrey Moore's curve and
Moore's law.
It's like, what are you?
Right.
And if you are an innovator, then you need to find other people that you can share your ideas with and get them on board, get feedback, keep trying experiments. And if you're a follower, you say, at what point will I have enough evidence to be able to jump and go down that path?
Are we in the trough of disillusionment? I get that sense right now.
For me, no. For me, no. I should retire. Lots of people say I should retire, but including my wife.
Frank Lloyd Wright did his best work in his 80s.
But there's so many exciting options with AI to transform how we educate students, how we educate people, how we transform long-held myths about what works and what doesn't. The myth about the focus of innovation is about coming up with good ideas, but it's actually getting ideas adopted. That's the focus. Understanding how you create value propositions, understanding how you overcome barriers to adoption. There are so many great ways that I can take the tools I've been developing and make them into AI agents and share them with the world that I'm too excited to stop.
Well, I love your passion, and I wish we could continue on for another half hour or so, but we have our co-op interns who are celebrating their final day today.
Wow.
And they've been immersed in entrepreneurship and design thinking and supporting us here at the Mindshare Workspace. And
I think it's never a final day. It's the leg of that journey.
That's it. Well said. So Dr. Andrew Maxwell, thank you for sharing your insights and for challenging us to think more deeply about the relationship between artificial intelligence, innovation, and human judgment. Your work reminds us that AI can strengthen the innovation journey, but meaningful impact still depends on our ability to understand people, test assumptions, interpret evidence, fail, and be responsible decision makers. To follow Andrew's latest thinking, look for The Innovation Doctor, where he explores entrepreneurship, education, innovation, adoption, AI-enabled learning, and the journey from promising ideas to real-world impact. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Mindshare TV. I'm your host, Robert Mardlacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.